Heartwarming moment, elderly woman calls son, U.S. Attorney General, when cops uncover incredible community crisis. Clara's hands trembled as she cradled the phone against her ear. The scent of cinnamon and sweet apples filled her cozy kitchen, wrapping her in memories of family gatherings long past. She could almost hear her husband, Henry, teasing her as he waited for her famous apple pies to cool. But today, that comforting aroma was overshadowed by urgency. The neighborhood bakery, a pillar of their small Missouri town, was under threat. Sold to a large corporation, it would leave her friends jobless and their community devastated. Around her, the bakery bustled with the chatter of worried neighbors. Clara felt their anxiety deep into her bones, twisting her heart as she listened to their fears. With every worried glance exchanged, she couldn't shake the feeling of helplessness, of the swirling storm of thoughts whispering that everything was changing and they could do nothing. They deserved more. They deserved to keep their way of life. "We can't let them take this from us," Clara said, her voice rising above the murmurs. With firm resolve, Clara picked up the phone. She dialed Michael, her son, now the U.S. Attorney General. He hadn't been around as much lately, consumed by his prestigious role far from the small-town streets. With each ring, her heart raced, filled with a mixture of pride and the ache of distance. Would he hear the urgency in her voice? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Clara's hands shook as she hesitated, worries flooding in. What did a small-town woman have to say that could matter in the grand halls of power? Doubts whispered cruelly about her age, her influence, nagging thoughts that made her question herself. But then she remembered the faces surrounding her, the children that played hopscotch outside, the laughter that echoed in the air. Those moments fueled her, reminding her why she needed to fight. The phone connected and Michael's voice filled her ear. At first, it reassured her. But soon the bureaucratic red tape he described only deepened the pit in Clara's stomach. The urgency she felt collided with the stark reality of his world, so far removed from the heart of her community. Just when she thought she had rekindled their bond with a cry for help, doubts rumbled through her. Then, she witnessed the mistreatment of local veterans, men who served their country with honor, now treated like disposable figures in a corporate game. With each indignity, her heart burned brighter, turning pain into resolve. Clara knew this fight meant more than just the bakery. It was for dignity, respect, things that every person, no matter their age, deserved to have. With newfound determination, she gathered her friends. Each face reflected her mission. She wasn't alone. As they prepared for the confrontation that lay ahead, Clara felt a wave of hope surging through her. Her sense of family and unity ignited a fire in her chest. Michael received news that could change everything, but the phone suddenly crackled ominously, leaving Clara clutching the silent line with a racing heart. Would they make it in time? Would the spirit of the town survive the looming threat? Clara's fight was just beginning, but would Michael stand with her, or was she destined to face this battle alone? Clara's heart raced as the phone remained silent. That crackling sound reverberated in her ears like the final shreds of hope flickering out. What was happening on the other end? Michael had promised to help. She needed him to rally support, to be the bridge between her small town and the towering edifice of power. "Mom." The warmth of her son's voice finally broke through, laced with concern. "I'm here. Are you there?" Clara took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Yes, Michael. You have to understand, it's urgent. The bakery, it's not just about bread and pastries. It's about community. It's about us." "I know, Mom. I'm working on it. Just give me a little time," he replied, but Clara could hear the burden in his voice. They were sliding toward chaos, and time was running out. She glanced around the bakery, where the faces of her friends bore the same anxiety echoing in her heart. Fred, the retired veteran, leaned heavily against the counter, worry etched deep in his features. Emily, the single mother who baked cupcakes for the local school, wiped away tears as she muttered about her lost job. They didn't deserve to suffer because of corporate greed. Michael, time is exactly what we don't have. They're moving fast. If we don't stand together, our town will just become another ghost of the past, Clara said, her voice rising above the din. She had to convey the urgency had to break through whatever walls separated them. A long pause ensued, and she could almost feel the gears turning in her son's mind. Then, finally, he said, "Okay, I'll build a case. We can push back against the sale, but I need more than just words from you. I need you to gather everyone. Rally support, even if it's just a small gathering. We're going to need public pressure." Clara nodded even though he couldn't see her. "We can do that. Thank you, Michael. Thank you." As she hung up the phone, a steely determination replaced any lingering doubt. It was one thing to have her son on board, it was another to bring her community into the fight. They would need to put their fears aside, their petty grievances, and unite. "Listen up, everyone," Clara called out, raising her voice above the anxiety thrum. The crowd turned to her, faces pinched in worry but eager to listen. "We need to stand together. They want to take our bakery, our home. But we won't let them. We're stronger than we realize." Her words inspired a ripple of life. Fred straightened up, his fading spirit reigniting. "What do we do?" he asked, a spark igniting in his eyes. "We're organizing a meeting at the library. I want everyone there. We need to show that we won't back down," Clara replied, glancing around at the firm nodding heads. "And we'll gather stories, testimonials. If we show how this bakery affects lives, we might just turn the tide." Cheers erupted, filling the room with renewed energy. Clara felt warmth blossom within her. This was the spirit of the community she had always known, fighting for one another like they always had. She could see their resilience shining through, and her heart swelled with pride. As they planned, discussing flyers and gathering support, something deeper shifted within Clara. She was ready to become a pillar of strength, just as her husband had always believed she could be. Yet as excitement brewed, a small voice tugged at her heart. Was she truly strong enough to lead this fight? Just then, a shadow loomed at the door. Clara looked up to see a man in a business suit, unfamiliar, so out of place. He shrugged off his coat and approached her, his expression unreadable. "I wasn't aware this was a meeting for a revolution." Clara felt her pulse quicken. Who was this newcomer? Did he come to threaten them further, or could he be the ally they hadn't anticipated? Her mind raced with possibilities, and suddenly, the fight felt bigger than she'd imagined. "Who are you?" she demanded, squaring her shoulders, ready to face whatever came. The stakes were too high. Would she find allies in unexpected places, or was this yet another challenge for her to overcome? As he stepped closer, determination flickered in Clara's heart. This was just the beginning. The man smirked slightly, and Clara could see a hint of amusement dancing in his eyes. "I'm Nathan Pierce. I represent the developers interested in buying your bakery." His words struck Clara like a fist to the gut. The enemy stood before her, wrapped in a polished suit, exuding confidence and authority. She took a deep breath, fighting against the wave of anxiety rising within her. "So, you're the one trying to take everything we hold dear?" "No, no." Nathan raised a hand. "I'm here to just explain the offer." His tone was amiable, but Clara wasn't fooled. She could smell the corporate jargon a mile away. "Explain? You mean force us to sell our homes so your company can profit?" She shot back, fingers clenched into fists at her sides. The room was tense. The gathered friends exchanged worried glances. Fred's brow furrowed, and Emily stepped closer to Clara. Clara felt both strength and fear swirling inside her. They couldn't show weakness, not now. I'm just a messenger, Nathan replied, smooth as silk. But I also see an opportunity. If you hand over the bakery, there are benefits, renovations, funding for local businesses. Clara interrupted, her voice rising. You mean businesses that won't even exist if you bulldoze us? A bakery isn't just flour and sugar. It's memories, friendships, it's the heart of this town. Nathan's eyes narrowed. You think sentimentality will fend off a multi-million-dollar offer? It's not just sentimentality, Clara insisted, her voice trembling with fervor. It's what makes us who we are. You'll destroy lives, families if you go through with this. For a moment, silence engulfed the bakery. Clara's chest tightened with the gravity of her own words. She glanced at her friends, who nodded back, urging her on. You people can't see past your noses, Nathan shrugged, but his tone wavered, almost defensive. This is progress. It's time for change. What kind of change leaves people behind? A voice called from the back of the room. Clara turned to see Mrs. Harris, an elderly woman who had lived in the town longer than she could remember, standing with unexpected strength. It's our turn to speak. You don't get to decide our fate for us. She continued, the fire in her words igniting a glimmer of hope within Clara. As more voices joined in, Clara felt a buoyant energy filling the space. Each testimony swelled her confidence. They weren't just fighting for a bakery, they were fighting for a community woven together by shared experiences, by love and laughter. Nathan shifted uncomfortably, and for the first time, Clara caught a glimpse of uncertainty in his eyes. She seized the moment. You think we'll just roll over? That will let you take our hearts for profit? I can offer alternatives, he started, but Clara had no intention of entertaining his suggestions. No, she said firmly. What we want is to keep our community together. That's the only alternative we'll accept. His demeanor shifted, the playful smirk replaced by something colder. Then prepare for a fight, he warned, his voice low. Better believe we will, Clara shot back, the strength of her resolve shining through. The room erupted in applause, her friends and neighbors rallying behind her. As Nathan turned to leave, the air crackled with energy. Clara knew they had ignited something bold, something that could grow into a full-blown movement. Remember this moment, she called after him. It's the moment we began to stand firm. As the doors swung shut behind Nathan, Clara felt the weight of what lay ahead. They had started a war, and now they had to be ready for the fight of their lives. But a flicker of doubt still danced in her mind. Could they truly withstand the force of corporate power? As she locked eyes with her friends, she realized they would have to look deep within themselves to find the strength they needed. They would need to prepare for not just a battle of words, but a battle for their very way of life, and just as that thought settled in her chest, Clara noticed Fred looking particularly pale. Are you all right? She asked, concern edging her voice. Just thinking, he murmured, gratitude tinged with fear. What if it's not enough? She squeezed his hand, her heart racing again. It has to be enough. Yet, deep inside, the question loomed. Was she really ready for what was to come? And what if the support they thought they had eroded under the weight of intense scrutiny? This was only the beginning. Clara stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing as she processed Fred's words. The bakery felt like a fortress around them, but outside, the world was shifting. The enormity of their situation pressed against her chest, and she glanced around the room, seeking reassurance in the familiar faces of her friends and neighbors. Emily, perceptive as always, stepped forward, breaking the silence that followed Clara's confrontation with Nathan. We can't lose hope. We need a plan, she said, her brows knit with determination. Maybe we can organize a town meeting to rally everyone. A bake-off? Fred suggested, a hint of a smile creeping onto his face. You know, we could say it's a way to bring the community together. We showcase everything the bakery has meant to us. Clara chuckled, but the laughter was more a nervous reflex than genuine amusement. That's a great idea. A bake-off could definitely draw attention, she replied, motivated by the spark rekindled in Fred's eyes. It's not just our fighting spirit, it's also about sharing what we care about. Mrs. Harris, who had taken a seat near the back, raised her hand, shaking slightly with age but radiating strength. We clear out the back room and make it a community center for all of this, she proposed, her voice strong and steady. Every day, we fill it with stories, recipes, and memories. We'll remind everyone why this place matters. Yes. Clara exclaimed, feeling the momentum shift. We can invite everyone to share their experiences. Show Nathan and his team what we mean to each other. It's the right time to show the world what our bakery has built. As they discussed more ideas, Clara felt a warmth envelop her heart. Each suggestion built upon the last, creating a tapestry of hope and resilience. She could see that the fear of defeat was being replaced by an unwavering spirit of unity among her friends. Later that evening, Clara sat at the kitchen table, the familiar scent of baked bread wrapping around her like a comforter. She scribbled down ideas as her thoughts tangled together. Outside, light faded into evening, casting long shadows across the worn, wooden floor. If the bakery was their heart, this kitchen was its pulse, pulsating with history and memories. Her eyes drifted to a framed photo of her mother, apron-clad and laughing with flour dusting her nose, and she felt a surge of emotion. The bakery had been built on love, laughter, and challenge, each loaf telling a story that connected them all. But now, that heart was fighting for survival. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, breaking the stillness. Clara glanced at the screen. It was a message from Emily, "Let us meet up tomorrow to plan further. I've talked to some others. They're ready to join in." A smile broke through her previous worry. Maybe, just maybe, they could turn this moment of uncertainty into something bold, something bigger than themselves. As she prepared for bed, a flicker of determination lit a spark in her. They were on the brink of a revolution, and she could feel the energy thrumming through her. They would transform this struggle into an unforgettable event, but the real fight was only beginning. Clara lay awake for a while, staring at the ceiling. In her mind, she could almost hear the laughter of her mother and the clinking of dishes from the bakery. They had to keep the rhythm going, she needed to keep the heartbeat alive. With thoughts swirling like flour in the air, she tossed and turned, imagination running wild. What if they could gather strength not just from the community but reach beyond, and draw the support of those who knew small businesses like theirs? As dawn broke, and sunlight spilled into her room, Clara rose with a sense of purpose. She knew the community behind her could fuel this endeavor. But as the light illuminated her resolve, a chilling thought swept over her: what if they were met with backlash, instead of support? With each moment that ticked by, the urgency of their situation loomed closer. Tomorrow held promise and danger in equal measure. Would they rise to the occasion, or would their campaign crumble before it began? Clara stepped out into the fresh morning air, her resolve solid like the bricks that built the bakery. The sun hung low, stretching rays of golden light across the sleepy street. As she walked toward the bakery, the familiar sounds of the world waking up filled her ears: the chirps of birds, the rustle of leaves, and the distant laughter of children on their way to school. Each sound reminded her of why their fight was worth it. This community, this life, mattered. Once inside, the smell of freshly baked bread greeted her, wrapping her in comfort. She immediately noticed Emily setting up tables in the back room, her hands moving with purpose. A few others were already there, arranging chairs and discussing plans animatedly. Clara's heart swelled with pride as she witnessed the community coming together, everyone contributing in their way. "Hey, Clara. We're thinking of starting with a memory wall where everyone can post their favorite moments from the bakery," Emily suggested, her eyes shining with creativity. "Absolutely. And we should get a giant banner too, something colorful that says 'Save Our Bakery.'" Clara responded, feeling excitement pulse through her. The energy in the room was intoxicating. "Let us also invite local businesses to set up booths. They can showcase their goods while we reminisce about our shared history," Fred chimed in, already sketching a rough layout for the event. "Just like a fair." Clara couldn't help but smile, the vision of their vibrant gathering filling her mind. But a tinge of anxiety whispered in the back of her mind. What if Nathan's team stood against them? What if their bake-off fell flat? As they worked through the afternoon, she filled with urgency, wanting to make sure everything was perfect. Papers scattered, utensils clattered, and laughter erupted as they shared stories about past bake-offs that had been filled with friendly competition. Clara watched Mrs. Harris joyfully share a recipe for lemon meringue pies, her hands animated, too eager to keep her voice down. Every recipe has a story, don't forget that, Mrs. Harris said, eyes twinkling. And our stories are what bind us together. Those simple words struck a chord. Clara realized that the bake-off was about connection as much as the competition. It was more than just flour and sugar, it was their history, love, and attachment to the bakery that would resonate with the community. By the time dusk settled in, the room was transformed, it felt charged with purpose. They had planned activities, arranged decorations, and spread an infectious sense of optimism. Clara looked around at her friends, seeing hope fluttering in their eyes. Tomorrow, we'll get the word out to everyone, she announced, her voice steady. We need to show Nathan and the world that we're more than just a bakery. We are this community. Cheers erupted, and a moment of wild joy filled the room, letting them momentarily forget the looming payday that threatened their venture. They rallied together, arms linked, forming a circle of unwavering support. Clara felt a surge of pride and warmth, her heart racing as energy pulsed through her like never before, but as the evening sky darkened outside, Clara caught a glimpse of the bakery's sign swaying gently in the breeze. What if it wasn't enough? What if Nathan's team didn't respond with support? Her heart sank slightly at the thought, but she swallowed it back down. Tonight was for hope, not fear. As they dispersed, Clara looked at the bakery with fresh resolve. They were united, and that made them strong. But lingering doubts rushed through her mind, clouding the joy they had just created. Would their collective spirit be enough to push back against impending challenges? The sun set, leaving a lingering glow in the sky. Tomorrow would be crucial. Clara fell asleep that night with determination and questions weighing heavily on her mind. Would they be able to rally the community as they hoped, or would they discover that not all fights had a happy ending? Clara woke to the soft light of dawn streaming through her window. It was a new day, but with the weight of yesterday still resting heavy in her chest. She glanced at the clock. Time was running out. Today was the day. The plan to save the bakery hung in the air, electric and charged with possibility. She arrived at the bakery early, feeling the chill kiss her cheeks. The world was still waking up around her, but she could see the first few faces of the community approaching. Familiar figures, laughter weaving through their conversations, holding coffee cups like talismans of strength. Today, they would stand together, pushing through the door, the smell of the bakery yeasty, warm, and sweet wrapped around her. Emily was ahead, adjusting the memory wall as colorful notes fluttered like butterflies pinned in place by the hopes and dreams of the people who cherished the bakery. Clara couldn't help but smile as she approached her. Look at this. Emily gestured wide, isn't it beautiful? Every note is a story. Clara stepped closer, reading a few. I came here every Saturday after my first job. Another read, this place saw me through my divorce. The notes resonated with her like a heartbeat, reminding her why they were fighting so hard. These were real stories, real connections. Each one promised that maybe they weren't just building a bakery, they were nurturing roots in their neighborhood. Let us get ready for the bake-off. Fred interrupted, bubbling with energy. People will start showing up soon. The next few hours flew by as they finished setting up. Clara found herself in a whirlwind of flour dust, laughter, and friendly banter. She fought off every nagging doubt with each smile exchanged and every unrushed conversation. But as the minutes ticked down, a shadow of anxiety crept back in. What if they couldn't draw the crowd? What if Nathan's opposition snuffed out the spark they just kindled? The bake-off officially began, and the bakery buzzed to life. Families filed in, curious faces drawn by the smell of cinnamon rolls, the sight of homemade pies. It felt like a festival, alive with chatter and connection. Clara watched as Emily manned the booth, explaining the memory wall to visitors while balloons bobbed overhead, but then, in the corner of her eye, she noticed a familiar figure. Nathan stood by the entrance, arms crossed tightly against his chest. His eyes scanned the scene like a hawk searching for vulnerabilities. Clara's heart began to race. Did he come to undermine them? To throw cold water on their gathering? Emily's voice interrupted her thoughts. Look! A queue was forming in front of their booth. People held plates piled high with goodies, smiles illuminating their faces. Clara felt warmth blossom in her chest, and she joined the throng, peddling the story of her beloved bakery. Delicious! Just like my grandmother's. A woman exclaimed, savoring a bite of chocolate chip cookie. Each bite showcased not just food but the heart of their community, stitching together their shared experiences under one roof. Clara observed hopeful glances thrown her way, and as she turned, she noticed a group of locals gathering around Nathan. They whispered, eyes darting back to the bakery with hints of laughter and nods. Was this the moment they had been waiting for? Would Nathan step up to feel the pulse of the community he aimed to dismantle? Clara's heart thrummed in her chest, a constant reminder of the stakes. Then, Nathan began clapping. It was hesitant, almost forced, but it sent a ripple through the crowd. Clara's breath hitched. What would he say next? Would he support their efforts, or would he reveal his hand as the dark cloud she feared? The energy in the room heightened, and Clara found herself holding on to hope fiercely. Would this be their moment of triumph or the beginning of heartbreak? As Nathan stepped forward, Clara felt her heart race. The air was thick with anticipation. Whatever was coming next would change everything. Nathan cleared his throat, breaking the ambivalent silence that had settled over the crowd. Clara held her breath, every glance in the room fixated on him, as if the outcome of the bake-off hinged exclusively on his next words. He looked at the bakery, at Emily's bright smile, and then back at the people he once thought were mere customers but now seemed undeniably more friends, family, neighbors. I came here today, he began, voice wavering slightly but gaining strength, to see what all this fuss was about. To see if this bakery was really worth the fight. Whispers moved through the crowd like a wave. Clara felt a lump form in her throat. She had half expected him to denounce them, to deflate the joyful air that surrounded their homemade creations. Instead, he paused, his gaze softening. And I have to admit, I was wrong. There was a palpable intake of breath, a collective surprise that illuminated Clara's hope. This place matters. It's not just about pastries and bread. It's about community, about history. The applause that erupted felt electric, a mixture of disbelief and joy. Clara could hardly process it. Her heart swelled. She could see Emily's eyes glisten and Fred nudging people to cheer louder. This moment felt like a slow-motion explosion of hope. What is it worth? Nathan continued, locking eyes with Clara, as though he recognized her anxious spirit amidst the chaos. It's worth more than I ever realized. It's tied to our lives, and maybe, just maybe, I can help. Help. The words echoed in Clara's mind, taking root and sprouting into new possibilities. Could Nathan, the businessman intent on tearing down everything they loved, become an ally? She blinked back a tear, realizing the magnitude of this shift. Thank you, Nathan. We need your support. She shouted over the applause, her voice now steadier than her heart. I can't promise it'll be easy, but I'm willing to work with you all, he admitted, an unmistakable sincerity in his tone. There was a glint of something in his eyes, maybe regret, or perhaps hope. Cheers erupted again, an energy like wildfire spreading through the crowd. Clara caught Emily's gaze, their eyes reflecting disbelief mixed with joy. They exchanged a silent understanding. A sliver of light had pierced the dark cloud, but even with the applause ringing in her ears, Clara couldn't help but sense the uncertainty that loomed still. Could Nathan really change? Would he follow through, or was this just a fleeting moment of clarity? As the crowd buzzed with conversation, Clara stepped away to catch a breath. She moved toward the memory wall, trying to ground herself in the stories pinned there. Each note, each sentiment, reminded her why they were fighting, why the bakery mattered. "Clara!" Emily called, rushing to her side. "Did you hear him? It's unbelievable." "I know," Clara replied, trying to maintain balance between hope and skepticism. As they stared at the memories, words of confidence scribbled in various colors, an idea sparked in Clara's mind. What if they invited even more of the community to share their stories? What if they made this a space not just for pastries but for people to be heard? "Let us create a story hour," Clara said suddenly, enthusiasm mixing with fresh determination in her voice. "Let us gather our community, let South share what this place means to us, all of us." Emily's eyes widened in excitement. "That's brilliant. We can make it a regular thing." But even as they fleshed out the idea, a shadow of doubt whispered in Clara's mind. Would Nathan's change of heart be genuine enough to make a difference? Or would the winds of change blow back and threaten everything again? As the two women turned, ready to spread their idea among the cheerful crowd, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Change was coming, but would the bakery survive its growing pains? Before she could ponder more, Nathan approached them, an earnest look on his face. He had something else to say, something important. What would it be? Nathan took a deep breath before he reached them, his expression serious yet hopeful. The surrounding chatter faded into a soft murmur, as the crowd instinctively sensed that another significant moment was about to unfold. Clara stood there, heart racing, unsure of what to expect. "Clara, Emily," he said, his voice steady but earnest, "I've been thinking about how I can help. I want to do more than just support you with words. I want to invest in this bakery, in your vision for the story hour. I believe it can truly become something special for our community." Clara blinked, her heart skipping a beat. Was this really happening? Was Nathan truly willing to step beyond his past intentions? She exchanged a glance with Emily, who wore a mixture of surprise and excitement. "Invest?" Clara replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "You mean you want to put money into this?" Nathan nodded, his brow furrowed as if he understood how monumental this decision was. "Yes. I've been running the numbers. I see the impact this bakery has on the neighborhood, how it brings people together. If we can strengthen that bond with new events and outreach, we can build something truly lasting." Emily gasped, joy lighting up her face. "That's amazing, Nathan. But why the change of heart?" He glanced away, his expression softening, and Clara saw a glimpse of vulnerability. "I wish I could say I had this moment of clarity from the start, but I didn't. I wanted to build something bigger for profit, not realizing what I was tearing down in the process. You've shown me what I overlooked. You've shown me the spirit of this place. It's not just about business. It's about people." The crowd was starting to draw back, intrigued by this exchange. Clara felt the warmth of possibilities expand within her, pushing against the walls of doubt that had constricted her hope for so long. "Clara, will you let me be a part of this?" Nathan continued, sincerity etching every word he spoke. "I want to make amends and support what you're building here. It means everything." "Of course," Clara exclaimed, her heart swelling with renewed excitement. This could make a real difference. Behind her, she felt the surge of agreement from the crowd. The whispers turned into chatter filled with enthusiasm about Nathan's proposal. It was as if the air had thickened with potential, vibrant and electric, but just then, a loud crash startled everyone into silence. Clara spun around to see a large basket of baked goods had toppled over, scattering cookies and pastries across the floor. Laughter erupted as people began to pick them up, but Clara noticed Nathan's expression shift to concern. "Let me help," he said, jumping into action alongside Clara and Emily. The three of them began to gather the treats, and amid the laughter, Clara felt the work shift from a burden to a bonding moment. Everyone who stepped in felt a part of it, and soon the initial chaos turned into a beautiful camaraderie. As they cleaned, Clara caught a moment to steal a glance at Nathan. She noted a transformation in him. Not only was he helping them after all these years, but there was a glimmer of warmth in his eyes as he interacted with the community. "I can't believe this just happened," she whispered, barely able to comprehend the whirlwind of events. "Neither can I," Emily said, sharing a joyous smile. "This is just the start." But as Nathan leaned over to pick up a cake, Clara couldn't shake that feeling of doubt creeping in again. Could this be sustained? Could they trust Nathan's newfound commitment to last? Just then, Clara caught Fred's eye from across the room. He was thoughtfully watching them, a frown creasing his forehead. What was he thinking? Before she could ponder more, Nathan stood tall, brushing flour off his hands. "So, what is the first step for this story hour? I'd love to hear more about it." But Clara knew this was only the beginning. With her heart still racing with hope and uncertainty, she felt the ground beneath her shift once again. What they were building was fragile, and she could sense that all their hard work was about to face new tests. Could they propel this forward in a way that truly mattered? As voices melded together in conversation about next steps, one thought nagged at her: in this social storm of change, would they all truly be able to weather the winds ahead? The scent of fresh pastries still hung in the air, mingling with the buzz of conversation as Clara gathered herself. She glanced at Emily, who was lost in a daydream of what the bakery could become, and then back to Nathan, whose readiness to help filled her with a mixture of hope and suspicion. It was all happening so fast, and while she wanted to embrace this moment, uncertainty lingered like a shadow. "Okay," Clara started, raising her voice to be heard over the chatter. "The story hour, we need to decide how we can launch it in a way that really brings the community together. More interactive, maybe. Storytelling sessions with local authors. Sounds of laughter and joy. What about you, Nathan? How do you see your involvement?" Nathan opened his mouth to respond but paused, realizing the gravity of his role. His expression flickered with hesitation before he leaned in closer, earnestness filling his voice. "I think we could incorporate not just storytelling, but also workshops. Baking classes for kids, market days for local artists, bringing people into the bakery for more than just coffee and pastries." Clara's heart raced. She could picture it, the bakery overflowing with laughter, children learning to bake, neighbors sharing stories. But then, Fred's worried face flashed in her mind. She couldn't ignore that nagging feeling. "Do you really think people will show up for that? I mean, you didn't seem interested before. What if this is just a nice idea?" The room fell quiet for a moment. Nathan rubbed the back of his neck, his brow furrowed. "You have to trust me, Clara. I want to be here not just as an investor but as someone who believes in what you're creating. But I get it, there's a lot to prove, and maybe I've made it hard for you to trust me." "You have, Nathan. But I also see how hard you're trying," Clara admitted, her voice softening. "I shouldn't hold on to the past, right?" With that, a sense of relief washed over her. The fear of being vulnerable left a bittersweet taste, but she felt lighter, willing to let some of that doubt float away. They moved forward, drafting plans amidst laughter and ideas swirling around the room. People chipped in, filling the atmosphere with creativity and friendship, rekindling a sense of belonging amidst the disparate threads of their community. As plans unfolded, laughter erupted again, this time from a group of children happily claiming a table, doodling on napkins as they participated in a spontaneous art class. Clara watched them, her heart swelling. This was what she envisioned all along, but the happiness was short-lived when a shadow crossed her mind, a reminder that not everyone shared her trust in Nathan's new intentions. She caught Fred's lingering gaze, still disapproving. His concern felt heavy, she could almost feel the weight of his thoughts as he regarded her. Fred's voice rang out, steady and low. "Clara, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but don't rush into this with blind faith. Money doesn't change a person overnight." "Fred," she began, but he shook his head. "I'm just saying, be cautious. You're working on building something wonderful here. Just make sure it's built on solid ground," he advised, casting another short glance at Nathan before walking off to help clear the mess of broken pastries. Clara clenched her jaw, a surge of frustration welled up inside. Why couldn't he see what Nathan was trying to do? Yet the words lingered, echoing doubts she thought she had put to rest. As the night wore on, excitement buzzed through Clara like electricity. Yet, in the recesses of her heart, doubt stirred once again. Could they truly trust someone who had once been an adversary? The joy in the bakery surrounded her, but deep down, Clara felt the tangible weight of Fred's warning still pressing against her promise of hope. In that moment, she realized something had to change. The question loomed like an unresolved sigh: if they were to build this dream together, how much of themselves would they truly have to risk? A sudden silence gripped the crowd as a distant siren whirred to life, slicing through the warmth of the evening. Clara glanced toward the door, catching Nathan's eyes. Would this partnership carry them to their dreams, or were they barreling toward an impending storm? Clara stood at the front of the bakery, surrounded by laughter and chatter, but her heart felt like it was caught in a tug-of-war. The sirens faded, swallowed by the excitement around her. She looked down at the cake she had just decorated, a testament to hope, and shook her head slightly. This moment was everything. Families gathered, the aroma of baked goods swirling, and stories shared, but Fred's words lingered in her mind: be cautious. Moments turned into hours as the community thrived, but she couldn't shake the prickly sensation of doubt. Nathan had extended a hand, but was it out of sincerity or necessity? Just then, a group of children burst in, ecstatic with flour-dusted hands, giggling and dragging their parents over to see their artwork on napkins. Clara smiled as her heart warmed. This was what it meant to be a part of something bigger, what her husband Henry would have wanted. Yet, Fred's voice echoed louder now, reminding her that she had a duty to protect this spirit, even as it blossomed. Just as she was about to brush aside her suspicions, she noticed him across the room, observing. His brows were furrowed deep, and Clara felt the shift in energy when their eyes met. With newfound determination, she approached him. Fred, something really good could come from this, can't you see? Good, maybe. But we have to be careful. Why are you still holding on to doubt? Clara searched his eyes, wanting to see the spirit that once thrived there. Because I care about you and this community, he replied gently yet firmly. Silence hung between them as the chatter continued. She could see the genuine concern woven into his expression, and it softened her heart. I know, I need to be cautious, but she hesitated, searching for words. That's all I'm asking for. Clara smiled at his honesty, but deep down, she felt the weight of her purpose. We need to show that we're strong together, she said, resolving in her heart to weave Nathan into their community tapestry, no matter how complex it might become. Stepping back into the crowd, Clara breathed deeply. Emily was at her side, putting together a poster for the story hour, and Clara felt the excitement building again. She couldn't allow fear to dim the buoyancy around them. Everything started to come together. I can't believe how many people are stepping up, Emily said, her hair bouncing with enthusiasm. Yes. This is it. Clara felt rejuvenated, the hope blending with urgency. We need to remind everyone just how important this community is. Let's make announcements. The power is in our collective voices. As Clara began rallying the crowd, she watched how easily everyone flowed together, intertwining hopes and dreams. Fred, too, began to articulate stories, encouraging yet protective, adding his wisdom to the conversations and forming bonds with Nathan as attendees voiced agreement. Clara could feel the tide turning. Then, as the evening wore on, Nathan made his way over, visibly energized. Clara, I want to help with the logistics of the story hour. Let us have our first event this weekend, with a focus on community stories, he suggested, eyes glinting with determination. She hesitated. Are you sure? This means committing to us. I've never been more sure. His sincerity resonated with her. Perhaps redemption was possible. As Clara nodded, permission mingled with dread. Conversations drifted around her like leaves caught in breezes. Would everyone accept this as a sign of potential change? She glanced around, feeling the warmth of their unity, and she knew they were at a pivotal moment. They could build something beautiful, together. A flicker of hope ignited in her chest. The challenge ahead was monumental, yes, but Clara could feel the pulse of their community like a drumbeat, strong and unyielding. If they walked together, if they fought together, they might just endure. Days passed into nights leading into the weekend of their planned story hour, buzzing with excitement and a tinge of nervousness. Clara bustled in the bakery, taking all of it in. She sensed that familiar cinnamon comforting embrace wrapping around her once more. As the door swung open, Clara straightened, heart thunderous with hope. Families came pouring in, eager, smiling, and she focused on their faces. It was time. "Welcome, everyone." Clara beamed, her voice cutting through the hum of chatter. "Today, we gather not just for tales and treats, but to honor what connects us, the heart of our community." The room erupted with applause, and Clara felt the thrill of unity wash over her. As each person took their turn to share memories, wives reminiscing about their wedding cakes, children recalling their first cookies, she felt the energy transform into something electric. It permeated every corner of the bakery. Nathan was there too, intent on supporting. He moved among the attendees, listening, his brow relaxed and his smile genuine, but then, a familiar figure caught Clara's eye. Fred stood with arms crossed, surveying the room. Would he trust this journey? She met his gaze, and something shifted as he nodded subtly, breathing life into their effort. She felt a silent but powerful agreement pass between them. With every shared story, Clara embraced the reality that their community was woven deeply into the very fabric of life. It was old, yet new, fragile, yet unbelievably strong, like the best loaves of bread they'd baked for generations. "Let us keep sharing these stories." Clara opened her arms wide, her heart swelling. "We are family, after all." In that moment, Clara knew they would protect their home. Together, they'd preserve not just their bakery but their community, standing as a bulwark against anything that threatened them. As applause erupted around her, Clara felt the fears melting into hope. They were resilient, a collective spirit, armed with their past and confident in what lay ahead. She took a deep breath, overwhelmed in the finest of ways. This was their story, and it was just beginning. And now, dear friends, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this community thriving. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we can inspire. Let us begin.